Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode number 27 of Unsung Heroes of the Cloud, where today we are joined by Alp Kaya, who will walk us through some amazing machine learning capabilities built into Power BI. But before we jump into the tech, Alp, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Nils.
So,
I
Alp,
think Alp is the first Canadian, right? That we have? Could it be?
I think he is the first Canadian, so
Oh my God.
welcome to the show.
Awesome. Awesome. You guys need to have the Canadians on more, Nils. Come on, guys. What's going on over there?
Yes, but Alp, although you're a Canadian, you don't live in Canada.
That is true. I live in the Bay Area. It's been almost 3 years moving here. I'm trying to not melt these days because of this heat wave there, Nils.
So you don't have AC?
I do, but you know what? We got these alarms saying, hey, turn off your AC and maybe turn it on only after 9:30 p.m. last night. We've got, I think, a very strained electrical grid in California these days.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is true. I actually turned mine off until 9 and only turned it on at 9, but that was so refreshing.
Yes, it was.
But what do you like to do for fun, Alp?
Oh my God. You know what? For fun, I think the kids keep me busy. I've got a high schooler who's in grade 10 and he's on, obviously he's got his academic requirements and he's got sports, plus the other two kids as well. So they keep me busy between work and the kids. They definitely keep me busy.
Okay, so what sports does the high schooler play?
The high schooler is actually on the wrestling team. He did. So given that we just kind of moved from Canada about 3 years ago and he started high school last year, he had a pretty good season. He kind of, what did he win? He won the most outstanding new wrestler for his high school, which was pretty good. He almost had a top 16 breakthrough in the northern state of California. So he had a pretty good season, I would say.
Darn.
Okay, so is he ready to go into UFC?
I was hoping he gets, I don't know, Nils, I'm hoping he gets a scholarship and gets an NCAA scholarship somewhere doing wrestling instead of getting his head beaten in the UFC. But what does that parent know, Nils?
Maybe we can use him as our goon squad for some of the next episodes or something.
Use it as an enforcer for, I don't know, I guess, people who don't listen to us, maybe something like that.
Yeah, true.
Oh, that's too funny, guys.
So, Alp, I've heard that you know how to wrestle with data in Power BI.
Okay, awesome. You know what? A little bit. I've kind of been working with this tool set for some time now. And so I've kind of learned some of the tricks of the trade. And today I'm hoping I could share some of the very interesting machine learning capabilities we've got within the Power BI platform.
Okay, and so maybe before you show us machine learning in Power BI, for those of us who don't know what Power BI is or that have only consumed the report, please tell us, what's Power BI all about?
Awesome. So you know what? Great question, Nils. So Power BI is Microsoft or our analytical platform. It's got a very interesting history. If you kind of look back, 2017, that's where it was kind of formed and the service came into being. What we did at that time was something very innovative. What we did is we created PowerBI.com, which is a SaaS-based service. And before that, in order to kind of deploy any analytical platform, you need to go and provision hardware. You need to go and install the server. You need to go get it networked in, and then you need to go deploy it. So sometimes organizations, it would take them 3 months, 6 months, 9 months just to get a server component up and running. What we did with PowerBI.com, since we are a hyperscaler and we're across, I think, 54 regions across the world and covering 190 countries, what we did is we deployed that service automatically. So as soon as you create any content, it's ready for you to be published, right, in your region. And because now we've got this service available in all these countries and ready to go, what we were able to do is innovate. And every month we came up with literally 50 to 100 innovations every month. So over the last 5 years, we've kind of moved into that top right quadrant in the Gartner Magic Quadrant.
Okay, cool. So is Power BI only available as a SaaS, or are there other models to deploy it as well?
So right now, if you go to there are a few different models, but PowerBI.com is SaaS. And it is multi-tenant, but if you have a certain compute requirement, what we can do is assign dedicated capacity to it. So you choose the capacity that you need, and then obviously you can scale it up and out if necessary. And so that's the model. So you do have those kind of levers as well. So it's SaaS-based, and we do have the IaaS capacity assigned to it if you so wish to go there.
Cool. And then you specifically wanted to call out some of the machine learning capabilities in Power BI. So what's all that about?
Okay, thank you, Neil. So again, like kind of going back to all those innovations that we've done over the last 5 years, one of the things that we've been trying to do is infuse machine learning across the analytics platform. If you kind of look at like the history of machine learning and analytics, those have been very separate. And so you'll have the data science go and do a machine learning algorithm or a technique or an experimentation. The analytics guys will go and build the analytics report for probably like very standard sources like your ERP or CRM and whatnot. And those two worlds often wouldn't converge, right? So the analytics developers would stay in analytics, the data science would stay on the data science side. What we're trying to do with this, with our platform, is to infuse some of those machine learning capabilities to the analytics platform. So what we're trying to do is allow business users, data users, or users of data who are interested in doing a little bit of machine learning to enter that world and kind of lower the barrier of entry. And that's kind of where we're going. So it's very interesting. We're kind of really going for that persona of business analyst, data analyst, somebody who's interested in doing some machine learning, all the way up to the data scientists. And we've integrated, even with Azure Machine Learning, which is our full-blown machine learning services stack, with our Power BI tool set. So it's a very unique position that we've got in the market.
So making it very easy for everyone just to onboard in data analytics, just like that.
That's right, Mike. That's a very good summary. I would say if you said it better than I did, 100% correct.
Citizen data analytics, as we call it.
Exactly.
All right, cool.
So you got anything to show us?
Okay, let me walk you guys through the demo, okay? So right now you're looking at powerbi.com, as you can see on the URL. So this is our SaaS-based service. I am in the browser mode. This is data from AdventureWorks. So this is not real data. It is just mock-up data. And the reason I say that for machine learning, for it to be really real and to give you something profound, obviously the data needs to be real, right? Because the machine learning algorithm will figure out if you're just randomizing the data. Anyway, so this is the AdventureWorks. You can go and get it on SQL Server and then do some of the things I'm going to show you now. On the bottom left-hand here side, you're seeing kind of transaction counts over time. And you can see 2012, I had a certain amount. 2013, I've got way more. What we've done is right within the visualizations, we've allowed a business user or someone who's looking at this to apply some machine learning to what they're seeing. So I'm going to go into explain the increase. And what this will do is actually run a linear regression across the data and try to figure out what changed and what happened to explain this increase. And so what it does is it kind of goes through, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of approach after approach. It kind of modifies the variables and it takes different shots at it. So for instance, like it's saying, hey, transaction counts for certain styles of SKUs had increased more in 2013 than 2012. And these account for increases, right? Certain product lines have increased more in 2013 than 2012, right? So like this product line exists here, but didn't exist prior in 2012. And I can change these visuals. And in fact, I can change them all to the full visualization pane. All these visualizations are open source. So if you do need to modify them, you can. And if I so wished, I can go and add this actually to the visual itself. So as soon as I hit this plus button, the visualization will pop up in here and I can place it wherever I need to place it and move it and so forth. So pretty powerful. And
so
same thing.
Alp,
Yes.
I do mean to interrupt you here because
Yes.
you glanced over something really quickly. Like when
Okay.
you hovered over 2013 and you right-clicked, that analyze and explain thing, nobody had to build this. Like nobody did all of this. You just went to your data, right-clicked
right.
on the data, and explained this data point. That's all
That's
you
right.
did.
That's exactly what we did. So again, behind the scenes, a linear regression is being invoked, and it is returning these sorts of analysis for you or for the user, so they can incorporate this into their understanding or into the analytic itself.
That is an important call out because you can build all these reports and you can do a lot of nice things with these reports, but just clicking on the data and getting a deeper analysis, and it seems to me like, well, it almost seems like rocket science. Like it's so cool that any data point in this report, you just click on it and you get that insight. I think that is super nice.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
but
very powerful. So go
because
ahead,
the thing
Mike.
is, because typically you need to train your data on all these things. So here you immediately have the insight. So what is there a threshold of the minimum of the amount of data that you need to put in there, or?
That's right. You know what? I could probably speak in generalities. Like with machine learning, typically, having more data is better than having less data.
Yeah.
So, on the surface of this, you can kind of see there's, only 28,000 records. So obviously, if we had more and longer data, real data, this would be more profound than what you're seeing right now.
Yeah. Okay, because it typically you train 80% of your data, and then you validate it through the 20% that you're doing it along with, and then you add it to the real data. So this is but this is really cool, and it gives
That's
you
right.
all these different models back in
That's
one
right.
single click.
That's right. Very powerful stuff, like you said, and that again, that barrier to entry for a data science becomes very low in something like this, right? I think as long as you've got a good understanding of the data and you kind of walk through this analysis, you can kind of understand and make this your own. Again, we can add all of these to our analysis and even change the visuals as so we desire. I'm going to move along. I do want to show you guys going the other way as well. So analyze, explain the decrease, same concept, right? It's going to go back and do the same thing. Say, hey, you've got a big decrease in transactions because of the following analysis. Okay, so it's not just increases; it's both ways. So let me escape out of that. Another interesting thing that we've done is we've again, like right in the data, we can do our data science techniques, if you will. But right within the visuals, what we've done is we've created this key influencer visual. And what I've done is, if you look at it, let me just open this up a little bit. What I'm trying to do is explain when sales increase, right? So what are the factors that go into sales increasing? And you can see I've just thrown in a couple of parameters here. So I say, hey, explain when sales increase by product key or by order date. And again, this goes back and again applies a linear regression and tries to figure out what generally explains larger sales amounts versus smaller sales amounts. So it's saying, hey, when you sell these certain products, these product SKUs in this, again, I didn't put the product name, I put the product key, then you generally have a more of an increase in sales. Order dates that were after 655, whatever order date key, some date, you have typically higher sales. And again, we can go the other way as well. What influences sales to decrease? Again, different set of product keys and a different set of order dates, like less than the other one. So again, something very powerful. As a business user, I can throw this in, and it's just this guy here that I'm just throwing in as a key visual. And then I'm throwing in the parameters or attributes that I want sales to be explained by, right? So limited to no data science capabilities, but I'm able to do something very profound and powerful here. Questions?
That seems cool as well. And all of this, like, just to think about, as you do machine learning or you do any sort of data science, you need some sort of compute to go through your data. All of this, if you're using PowerBI.com, runs on the SaaS service. There's no additional compute to connect to. You don't need to connect it to a machine learning workspace. You don't need to connect it to a VM. It's just all based on PowerBI.com. You connect your data source and it does all the computation for you.
That's correct. That's correct. What you're seeing right now, all based on PowerBI.com. I am going to show some other features where it does need a little bit more of that dedicated capacity that I talked about, but I'm going to get to that one. Very good point, Nils. Awesome. Let me move on. One last thing I want to show you guys. This is a pretty interesting one as well. Let's say that you want to maybe get somewhat familiar with this data. You're not familiar with this data. We've got this, again, another machine learning technique here where you can say get insights. And what this guy will do is actually go through the data and try to find, it'll try to find relationships and anomalies within the data. So it kind of takes a pass at it and says, hey, by the way, I've noticed these sorts of things. Are these things important? Are these anomalies? Is there an issue here? And that's what it's doing on this side right here, if you can see. So again, since this is, again, this is just mock-up data, it finds these sorts of anomalies, but it says, hey, you had such a huge transaction count decrease in 2013. Is there a reason for that? And it kind of walks through some explanations as to why it thinks that's happening, right? So this is again, very similar concept to our explain increase, explain decrease, okay?
So it finds causality, it finds correlation, it finds all these things for you. Makes it easy to analyze, and then you can still place your judgment, because as with everything in machine learning, you still need to have a solid eye on top of your data too, right? I mean, this is a 100%. Good startup point. Yeah,
that's right. 100%, Mike. That's the concept. Awesome, guys. Okay, I'm going to move from this one. I kind of move on to a couple other examples. The other thing that we've done that's pretty powerful is something called NLP, or natural language processing, which is kind of a subset field in machine learning. And what we're trying to do here is, like the traditional reporting platform was, ask a business question, give me a report. Ask a business question, give me a report. What we're trying to do is say, why can't I type in a question? Why can't I speak to Power BI and it gives me an answer, right? So you can see, like right off the bat, what we do is we give you a whole bunch of selections or suggestions about the data. So it says here, hey, what is the transaction count by color? So if I chose that, it would actually go and build a visual on the bottom. So here are all my transaction counts by color, right? And again, these are just the suggestions that come out of the box. And if I said, hey, show me more suggestions, it kind of gives you the same thing. So count products over time, whatever. It's giving me a product count over time. But if you look at the syntax, whatever I've labeled, these attributes, I can actually ask my own. So transaction count, and it says, hey, by region name, by region code, or if I've got, I'm not sure if I have sales territory, but let's see, by sales territory key, right? And I get a sales territory key. And if I wanted to change that visualization and make it something like this, I got my sales territory keys with my transaction counts. Again, the concept becomes, hey, I don't need to build a physical report for every single business question out there. I can use this NLP to kind of build a framework, and I can answer many questions with this framework, right? So a totally different user experience.
So
that's pretty cool.
You could, for instance, give this to a salesperson, and rather than them having to build reports, they could just type in a question like, show me the revenue of customer X.
That's right. There's a very specific syntax it's expecting. So as long as that you've labeled what's the word I'm looking for? As long as you've labeled the semantic layer, like in business acceptable terms, like these are probably bad terms that you've seen here, like product key and stuff like that. But, hey, what's my product, or what's my SKU? What's my revenue? As long as you labeled them in that form, they can ask those sorts of questions, Nils, 100%.
Okay, but still, like with a minor amount of training for your salespeople about how to do reporting, they could get in here and start building all of the visuals that they want to see without having to be a power user.
That's right, 100%. Awesome. Okay,
impressive.
I'm gonna move on, Mike, unless you have a question.
No.
Okay. Let's continue, guys. I'm gonna move on to a different tab. This is a pretty interesting one as well. What we've done with Power BI is to also integrate it with our Azure Machine Learning Services. Azure Machine Learning is a full-blown machine learning service platform. And so you can take advantage of the capabilities of the Azure Machine Learning platform within Power BI, right? This, again, like as we're kind of going from these different tabs, you're probably noticing that the level of sophistication is maybe increasing a little bit. And so what I want to show you is that integration to Azure Machine Learning Services. Right now, I've just got a file it's real data. It's customer review data. So customers have ordered something, and then they're putting some feedback in saying, hey, insufficient packaging, wrong items were sent, I'm not happy. And so what I want to do with this is I want to do a sentiment analysis on this. And so sentiment analysis is one of the machine learning capabilities that's out of the box, right? So I've already done this. And so if you look at this guy here, you're seeing this cognitive services dot score sentiment. It's marking a score of 0 to 100 for each of these texts. So you saw the kind of the first two lines were very negative. 2.5 out of 100 is a very low score. 6.6 is a very low score. This guy's even lower, but it's giving a sentiment score to the customer feedback. And how we did this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and click on this AI Insights. And what this does is says, hey, I'm going to go look into your machine learning services. I'm going to look to see what you have access to. And then I'm going to allow you to call these functions. So what I did was I called the score sentiment, and I said, hey, let's go and do a score sentiment on my comment field. And then I clicked apply, and that's it. So as a business user, I'm going to and using these pre-packaged machine learning services that do score sentiment, language detection, even tagging of images, and then and I'm getting the results back, right? So now I could include this into my analytics. And so again, we're blurring the lines between machine learning world and the analytics world with capabilities like this.
Okay. But just to clarify, and going back to somewhat of my earlier question,
Yeah.
all of what you showed up until this demo was just using everything built into Power BI. For this demo, you're actually connecting out to cognitive services. So I suppose you provision the cognitive service and you copy the API key and provided that to Power BI.
Very good question, Nils. And you always impress me that you always know the nuances like the API key that's needed for these. So very interesting. For these ones that you're seeing here, these are out of the box. So this is what we give you. And so as long as your Azure AD has access, you actually don't even need the key on these. So as long as you've got your Azure AD in Power BI, the same Azure AD in machine learning, this is out of the box. These are the standard ones you get out of the box.
Okay. And does a customer then get charged for this? Like Power BI creates these services, or it's all just free out of the box with the service?
Yeah, these ones are all free out of the service.
Whoa, that's really neat. Like you don't even have to pay for your sentiment analysis. That's cool.
That's right. That's right, Nils. Very interesting, isn't it? I'm going to continue on this path. Very good questions. Thank you, Nils. So here we go. Same thing. I'm still in the same kind of Power Query. I've connected to a source of data. Let me show you that source of data. Hopefully you can see this screen. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So I got an image, and you see some flowers here. Let me see if I can go to the right. And I see the Colosseum here. So what I want to do now is apply one of those cognitive services that we just looked at, image detection, and I want to see what I come back with. Again, in traditional analytics world, those two worlds were separate, right? So your unstructured data was very different than your structured data. So this sort of analysis became impossible. But again, we're trying to blur those lines, and we're going to use cognitive vision in order to extract the metadata from these from these photos that you're seeing here. I've already brought them into Power BI, and I've already applied, again, just going back to the AI insights. Let's go hit insert. I've already done the AI insights where I've called the cognitive vision service. And that's what I'm calling right now. Okay, I'm just going to cancel out of this because I've already done this. But this is, again, very simple, just like the other one. And the service has returned this to me. It's saying, hey, for this image, it's a sky, it's a building, it's outdoors. For the other one, I've seen a flower, a plant, yellow colored. And it's giving a probability and a confidence of why it's seeing what it's seeing. So you can see pretty high scores in terms of what it's detecting, right? So again, now I could take this and I could do something with this data because I've got this sort of data that I've extracted from an image, right? Before in analytics, I couldn't report anything that I'm seeing in those images, but now that I've got a JSON document back, I can actually go and add this as an analytic into my Power BI. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, so now, again, the level of sophistication is going up a little bit higher again. But I think, again, as long as you're a business user, a data user, this is not out of a realm of learning it, as I've kind of picked it up as well as time goes on. Here, I've got an accounts receivable file. Okay, so this is an accounts receivable. I grabbed this from Kaggle. It's been anonymized, but it was real data. What I'm trying to predict here is when a customer will pay. Okay, so you can see like this customer had some invoice date. I think that's January 2nd, and the due date was February 1st. But did the customer pay on time, right? So did the customer pay on time? And if I know that he's going to pay on time, I could kind of make cash flow decisions. I can make cash flow optimizations, right? So that's the concept that I'm going with here. You can see that he paid by January 15th. So he did pay on time. He paid within 13 days his bill, even though his bill is supposed to be paid within 30 days. Okay. So was he late? Yes or no? He was not late. Okay. But this second guy, he was late. And so what I want to do is I want to use machine learning and figure out which customers are going to be late, which customers are going to pay when, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So you're seeing the results of that here. And you can see here with the probability of 66%, our model predicted this guy would be not late. Oops, let me come back here. And with 71%, the other guy would be late, and he was, right? So this is another kind of an approach to do this. And really what we're trying to do, what I'm showing you with this example is, Microsoft manages a lot of money. We need to do cash flow optimizations all the time. We use these sorts of tool sets and techniques to do cash flow optimization on large sums of money. That's the idea. Now, let me walk you through kind of how we kind of got this, okay? Let's go here. So this is the same guy. It's the same everything. You can see I've already run a machine learning model on this. So the first thing I want to show you is the report that you get. Again, as a business user, I get this report once I run this model. And so this is going to give me, what this is going to give me is, hey, I've run a very powerful model. I'm trying to predict which customer will pay on time or not. Tell me how the efficacy of my model. And I'm a business user, so give it to me in layman terms. So this gives, after we've gone through the model creation, I'm going to show that next. You get this type of an output. So it says, hey, what's the area under the curve? How good is this model? It's 87% is the model accuracy. If I was to click on these guys that are marked as late are ones. So if I clicked on the one, it kind of gives me, a couple of statistics that are important. 82% precision, 82% of records that are predicted as one are actually of class one. And so I think you have to kind of read that a couple of times to get it. 87% of records that are actually a class one are correctly predicted as a class one. So this is how the math behind what you're seeing, it's calculated, the precision, the recall. But if I were to come in here and say, okay, what determines if someone's going to be on time, yes or no? You can see right up at the top, 16% of the time, which explains why a customer would be late or not, is because the bill is disputed. If I were to kind of hover over a paperless bill, you see 11% of the time, the paperless bill, it's a paper bill, perhaps it gets lost, right? Yeah. And then some percentage of the time, it's a customer that's, some customers are always late, right? So it kind of walks you through this sort of a model to say, hey, how good is my model that I just created? And what are some of the explanations as to what I'm seeing in the data? Anyway, I'll pause there for questions.
It's predictability done right, if you ask me.
That's right. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, I want to go to this guy here. So training details. Again, I am not a data scientist, but what this guy does for me is says, hey, here's what I've sampled. Here's what I've trained. Here's how many runs I've done. So it actually did 32 different runs. And you can see that as it does a run, it gets a score. It does a run, it gets a score, it gets a run, it gets a score. And finally it says, hey, this run was the best run. And so after 32 runs, it picks the best one for you. So you don't need to do it. And here's some of the machine learning techniques that you use in one or a combination of to get the result. Okay.
Whoa, so this is not even doing just a linear regression. This is using multiple different machine learning models to look at the data and give you an automatic output and an automatic model.
That's correct, Nils. And at the end of this, what I could do is, let's say I have a new data set. I can say apply model. And what it will say is, okay, where's your data set? So I'd have to go and create a new data set. And then I can go and hit run. And what it'll say is, hey, Nils is my customer. He's very reliable. Obviously, he's going to pay on time. It'll give me a new prediction for new data as well.
Well, you don't know me, Alp. One question about this. Like, I know that with AutoML, like other capabilities like Azure Machine Learning's AutoML, you typically run the AutoML and then you go ahead and you fine-tune it or tweak it by a human. Yes. Is that possible here? Like, can you export this model and fine-tune it?
This is a little bit of a black box, and this is the AutoML as well. So let me show you that, Nils. Very good question. I'm going to cancel out of this. Let's go back. So I've kind of shown you the output of what you get. Let's go back here. Let's see. Okay. Let's go here. Okay, so we started with this little accounts receivable file. I'm going to click on this little brain, apply machine learning model, add machine learning model. It's going to say, hey, what do you want to predict? Do you want to predict days late? Or do you want to predict like settle date? Like how many days did it take you to settle? Give me one sec. Sorry, guys. There we go. So I can predict, I could do a classification and kind of try to predict, is the customer going to be on time or not? Or I could try to predict how many days is it going to take for the customer to settle. So how many days? So I'm just going to go with the late and go ahead and click next. So right now we're in that AutoML, Nils, right? So I'm saying, hey, let's go and predict if the customer's going to be late, yes or no. This is a classification. And let's go, of course. Okay, perfect. Let me go and show you the different models that you've got access to. So I could do a binary prediction. So this would be a 0-1. If I had more than 2 possible outcomes, the general classification would do it. And if I was trying to predict the number of days that a customer is going to be late, or the number of days the customer is going to pay in, then I would be doing a regression. I'll just go with the classification for now. Click next again. Perfect. And then what it says is, hey, what data do you want us to study, right? So you do have to remove some of these things that will skew the results. Like for instance, like days to settle or days late. I had tagged those already. I created those, so you obviously want to remove them. I could add the customer ID. I know it says 2 distinct values, but are there certain customers that are like typically late? I might want to include that. Invoice number, it doesn't really matter what the value of an invoice number is. Maybe the amount might matter. I might want to include that or not. And that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and click next, and this is it. So I'm going to label this as my new model, and I'm gonna determine how much time of processing that I want. And so I think Mike, you were asking like typically like more data or less data. Another generality is, hey, if I process this more, then typically my results and my number of iterations could increase. Typically my performance on my model would increase, right? So this is where you get to play that dial. And then that's it. You hit save and train, and you get the outcomes that I showed you in the earlier tabs.
So this is how you can improve your granularity then of your model. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that is correct.
So that makes let's put it in a mild wording, noob people in data science really smart people all of a sudden, because this really is.
That's right. That's right. So there really becomes, again, Mike, to summarize that, it becomes like, what's your use case, right? Are you trying to determine if a customer will accept a product recommendation? So are you trying to do a classification? Are you trying to figure out if a transaction is fraudulent? Yes or no? And you can, as long as you've got that data, you've got that requirement, you can run through an auto ML scenario within Power BI, just like I showed you.
And so, Mike, you can now update your LinkedIn profile and say data scientist.
Shh. All of a sudden I'm the expert. Yeah, but the thing is also, I mean, it's a very cool tool. What I do like about it is that it gives you additional help on data that you should probably already know, because typically people dive into data that they know from their business, right? But even for non-knowing data to start getting to know your data, this is also really cool. It's a different approach, but it really can help you, like giving you insights. Like, look, this is all the things that I can see in your data estate, whatever you have, and these are the outputs that we have. What do you want to do with this? So you can play it 2 ways. I find this really, really useful to do discovery. Also, it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely like this, Alp. Thanks for showing us.
Awesome. No, thank you for having me, Nils. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So for everybody who watched up until this point, go ahead and try out Power BI. Like, I feel like I use Power BI in my day job to do a lot of reporting, but I didn't know about the capabilities that Alp showed me. So I want to go ahead and take a look. So Alp, thank you for sharing all of this information. Everybody who joined us up until this point, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody, and stay
Have a
safe.
good day, guys.
Bye-bye.